And the answer to the question presented before us was a tenor recorder was playing that song. A tenor recorder. Hello, everyone. Andrew McKee, the Irish Bard, here with Faire Life at Life's a Fair. Yes, I know I went ahead and answered that question from Drew up there with whether it's alto or soprano. No, a tenor. A tenor. Sometimes you really have to go low, and I couldn't resist. And I was trying to be a little less obtrusive than just going with a high soprano, because that can really get you that high pitched sound early on. You got to ease into it sometimes. And it's Monday evening. Gotta mellow it out as much as possible. So yeah, it is. Hello everyone. Brew, Jeremy, Janine, Jan. A lot of J's here tonight. Something I'm noticing. But yeah, it has been another impressive week of craziness. That's right, an impressive impressive week of craziness. Oh, he meant tenor, he says, according to Drew. So not soprano. Yes, it is easy to get all of those mixed up. So I will give you a pass on that, Drew, and agree that you probably did mean tenor, because no one would normally mistake a tenor for a soprano. So that makes sense. And Janine says that she made bread during the weekend and forgot to turn the oven back on after making rolls. Ooh. Yeah, that's always a tough one. Always a tough one. But yeah, it has been what a week. Oh my gosh, since last Monday. I know for those that were here and saw the second episode of Shakespeare Reviews that came out on Friday morning, and then of course last show on Thursday for a gathering. Oh, I'm so happy with the way things went and how things are going, and there's a lot more to come. So always fun and cool news. Now, yeah, I was just jamming a little bit on the tenor on the way while we were waiting to go in and get to video. But yeah, just random tunes just pop in your head. That's the way. That's the way it always goes for a musician, and I think generally for a lot of people. But yeah, I have been working on the new theme song for Fair Life on Mondays, and I'm close. I don't think I'm quite ready to show it to you yet, because I don't really have the chords down, to be honest. But I am very happy with the way it's going. It's the concept is Fair Life. It's the life that I want, and then the real hard part about it is trying to not disparage real life too much, because I do a lot of comparison between what it's like at Fair and what it's like in the real world, and yeah, it's too easy to really look down on the stuff that's going on around us. So I had to really try to reel that in as much as possible. But yeah, I'm glad that y'all's weekend went really well. And Drew says a tenor makes his fingers hurt. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, well, because you have to spread your fingers more on it, and just it's a little more of a spread than on a soprano, where you have the. But I guess you'd have the like this. It's a lot closer together, so you don't. Yeah, you kind of see the difference. They're right next to each other. How same fingers, same number of holes, 3, and how the difference is so different. It's almost twice the distance. So you kind of that's the tough part when when you play the soprano a lot and you first try to play a tenor. I remember the first time I tried and my fingers were a little wow. I could stretch them because thankfully the guitar helped me with the stretching, but just getting used to it was really a mess. But yeah, if you play anything like a cello or a violin or a guitar or something like that, where you're used to stretching your fingers out a lot, it's a lot easier to make the switch. But the rest is just getting used to that's how you move your fingers. You get so used to the soprano with moving your fingers automatically in muscle memory that it is a bit different. So it looks like a caricature of a recorder, really? I don't know. I mean, it's huh. Yeah, I do. I'm with Jan. I do love the sound of the tenor. It is it's certainly a lot more mellow, where Well, I mean, I can give you an example since you seem to be interested in it, so let's go with it. I'll play a little bit of the theme song for Shakespeare Reviews. Let's do that. And when you go to the soprano, it's very different. So yeah, and that's the mostly the low part on the recorder on the soprano, so it's not as high pitched as you get up there in that second octave. But yeah, I mean, it definitely has a nice. That tune is actually a lot easier to on the ears on the soprano, so a lot more mellow. But I like it. That is Newcastle, for those who aren't familiar, and my own arrangement of it, a nice, more mellow, relaxed arrangement. The faster one that most of you are used to is more like this. So yeah, just a little fun there. Um, yeah, the alto, it is a good balance and sound between the two. I will agree with you, Drew. The problem is it's in a different key. It's in F as opposed to C. So the fingerings for the notes you want are the exact same on the tenor and the soprano. But if you go down to the alto, the fingerings are the same with the alto and the bass recorder. So you kind of have to switch it up in your head as far as reading the music on the page. And you get used to that over time, but usually you'll see recorder players who are used to playing the tenor and the soprano a lot, or the alto and the bass, and they switch out between those because for them, although yeah, the distance between the fingerings are different, but the movement is the same. So that makes it. And Susan says, as an alto myself, she approves that message. I totally understand that. I'm a bass who pretends to be a tenor way too often, and I've gotten used to pretending to be a tenor. So uh, maybe I'm just comfortable with it after all these years. Wow, didn't have enough wind. Yeah, yeah, I totally understand that. That is one thing you develop if you play enough. I mean, it's like you're a diver because you have to have so much lung capacity. I mean, and you really work the muscles in your lungs. If it's kind of interesting, I've been to a point where I've played recorder for several hours straight, pretty much without stopping, and by that point, you can actually feel the muscles in your lungs hurting from too much exercise. It's kind of awesome. Uh, I mean, you can still play through it because it's only a slight pain, but you notice, and it's really odd. It's really odd. Um, but yeah, I mean, you do get used to that lung capacity, and with that, you can play a single note for a really long time. Especially since the recorder doesn't require much air, you can really sustain a note, and it's a nice skill. You don't even circular breathing helps, but you don't have to do it. You can people think you're circular breathing, even when you're not. When you get better at it. Oh, and Drew just says, "Well, I'm just playing this song in a different key. I'm going to use the soprano fingerings on the alto," and that's true. You can do that. You're just changing keys, and okay. I mean, there are plenty of famous musicians in history who really didn't think about key or read music or do that. They just played something and were brilliant at it. So totally reasonable. And like a Charlie horse in your chest, according to Jeremy. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, a little bit. It's just it's an interesting phenomenon. It, it I've gotten to a point now because I've played recorder enough. It doesn't happen much. I really have to. Um, I think usually there at Louisiana Renaissance Festival, there's a thing called a school days where it's the kids days during the week where they bring in kids from schools and you play from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. or 2 p.m. when the fair is open, and it's all for kids, and you just do that, and it's a totally different setup than a regular fair day. So what I end up doing is I'll play for several hours straight as kids are walking in all morning from 8:30 a.m. all the way up till 10 plus a.m. And I just play on repeat. I'll just play tune after tune after tune after tune, just so that every kid who enters the fair hears that Renaissance or medieval music as they enter. That they get a little bit of that magic because I know what a difference that makes. So I always try to do that. I think it's important and been a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, at the end of that, I will feel it sometimes. But that's about the only time now. I mean, if you take a break at all, it's you can you can avoid that. But once you've played it enough, but it is interesting. It's an interesting phenomenon. It's an interesting feeling to have your lungs sore. That's how I'll put it. At least for me. I don't know. I don't know if that's something that smokers or anything else feel at all like that. I don't think so. I think it's probably a very different feeling. But I'm just guessing here. But yeah, yeah. Anyway, little recorder information is fun. But yeah, I noticed Lady Victoria is there in the comments and everything, so that's great. The show that she was a part of last week, that was amazing, and yeah, with Craig Farrington, put that up, and it was she is wonderful on the hammered dulcimer, and Craig is of course wonderful on the lute. So it's a really good pairing. I love that. It was just a lovely pairing of music where you get. I mean, it's different enough where it didn't feel redundant at all, but it still was a good bit of music. I thought I really liked it a lot. So yeah, that was just wonderful. And also, I got to interview the Lady Victoria for the podcast. So it for those of you on our Patreon, you will have heard the podcast and seen it listed there on our Patreon page, patreon.com/life's affair, and that you always get stuff early on our Patreon. And then tomorrow it'll be general release, so you'll get to hear that. So that should be a good thing. I think you'll like it. I learned a lot about Victoria. She, yeah, I mean, everybody's fair history and how they got into fair is fascinating to me because it's usually all very different. I know that's might be a little strange, but no, I just think it's great because it always is insanely different. Surprisingly so. Surprisingly so. So yeah, I think uh, I think you'll really like that episode. And this was just it was just such a good show. And her playing and jumping around and being energetic while she plays is it's lovely music with her full of energy, which is a great juxtaposition. And then Craig is just such he plays lovely music and he emotes so much and has so much emotion when he plays. It's really good. So definitely hope you enjoyed the last show. For those of you who haven't seen it, go check it out because it is really good. Really good. So yes. But no, now for those of you who saw our second Shakespeare Reviews episode that got released last Friday, that was just wonderful. That was on 1948's Hamlet, Laurence Olivier, and quite interesting. A good show, I think, and I hope you liked it. If you haven't, go check it out because, yeah, I mean, it's a really good movie, and we had a lot of fun talking about it. Always. Now the next Shakespeare show coming up on Friday, and that should be good, is Scotland, PA. Now, Scotland, PA is a movie from 2001, and it is sort of an interesting take on Macbeth. Obviously, if you can see the picture, it's set in the 1970s in Scotland, Pennsylvania, and the story's about the same, but instead of kingdoms and all that, it's all about the fast food wars back in the 70s. It's fascinating. They did such a good job. Um, so yes, this is going to be a good one. Yeah, Jan just asked what this week's play was, so here we go. And Susan is asking, yeah, should have finished watching this first or go right now. Oh, you can finish watching this first. It's fine. Always good. But no, Scotland, PA, it's a little hard to find. You might have to actually find that one on YouTube. They do have a version on YouTube you can watch. It was sort of an indie film. Um, so yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay, well, Jan, there's a funny thing. We're actually going to be doing a special on Thursday. It's a little misleading because what's going on is we're doing the Shakespeare Reviews review. So this Thursday, what's going to happen is Dan and I are going to talk a little bit more about Shakespeare Reviews and show you some preview clips from upcoming shows and talk about what's coming up, and then go back and look a little bit about how it all started and the whole concept. And it's going to be pretty good. I think we're going to have a good time and just talk a little bit more about Shakespeare Reviews. And then the Friday, the day after, the Scotland, PA episode will be released. So it's a nice little presentation, and I think it'll be fun. It'll be a lot of fun. Ah, okay. Not a problem, Janine. Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about these. The wonderful thing about the beautiful thing about streaming is that streaming is a beautiful thing. It's You can always watch it later because it has, um, even though the live stuff or the pre-recorded stuff or whatever, you can always go back and watch the video later. That's the nice. So I really like that aspect. It's very archival, which is always good. But no, I think Shakespeare Review's review is going to be really awesome. I'm going to like it. It's going to be a lot of fun. You know, talking with Dan is always a blast. He's always fun, and we just seem to have fun together. So I hope you like it as well. And yeah, so that is going to be cool. Now, I did a little something different for 7 reasons today. I did 7 movies. So I hope you like that. Here's the thing: 7 movies that you should watch before you go to Ren Fair. These are the core films that, oh my gosh, you should watch. Because if you don't, what are you doing? It's like that. I mean, these are definitely the must-watch movies. So something to check out. So 7 movies. Now you're already thinking in your mind, I know you are, of what could those movies possibly? Of course, this and this. Yeah, I know. Mm. I tried to think a little outside the box here on some of them, but there are some core films that are so important. If you don't watch them, you're going to miss out on Faire a little bit, I think. At least a little. And Susan's saying, having never been to a Ren Fair, she should take notes. You should. You definitely should. Um, oh, and Drew knows some really obscure films. I remember this. I remember 20 years ago having conversations with him about, not often seen films. Yes, Drew, I do remember those conversations. Those were actually really interesting. Mm. But yeah. Oh, and Lee is totally right. Definitely RSVP for Thursday's Shakespeare Reviews show, so that we can get a reminder, and it'll help us out a lot too. So please do. And to answer Janine's question, yes, go do it now. Do that now while you're watching. I think you can open up an extra tab and do that real quick. So that shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, okay, 7 movies you definitely should watch. I'll start off with number 7. This is going to be an obvious one, so I think some of you have already thought of this. This is Excalibur from 1981. Now, I mean, this is like the stereotypical Arthur movie, King Arthur. It's hard to think of a movie that's done better. Yeah, definitely. It's the whole Sword in the Stone, the Merlin the Magician. I mean, everything. It's done so well, and the acting and cast very good, and the fact that it's a British production, and I think British director really, considering the subject matter, sometimes I think that helps because culturally I think they understand it a bit better. Just to be frank. So yeah. Oh yeah, and Susan mentions an interesting thing. Yes, young Patrick Stewart. That is true. Patrick Stewart plays a notable role in that. in 1981, well before Star Trek and all of that. So yes, it's very, very well done. I mean, definitely some actors that you would recognize from later. Uh, a very young Helen Mirren too. So very crazy. So yes, yes, there are some interesting people in there. And Excalibur, definitely worth seeing. If you haven't seen it, go. I also, if you do get the DVD or something like this, or something like that, do check out the director's commentaries on Excalibur, because the director, I mean, some directors' commentaries are very hit or miss for me. Sometimes they're fascinating. Sometimes they're just people hanging around drinking coffee, gabbing, and it's boring as anything. But that one, oh my gosh, very well done. He talks about scenes and just says, "Oh yeah, that was my backyard. That was yeah. I just at the beginning there with all the yeah and that creek and everything. Yeah, that just happened to be in my backyard. I really I love that area and we just filmed there because it was so nice. And you're just like, dude, that's your backyard. I mean, it's that kind of thing. And oh, Aaron, hello. So yes, I recommend Excalibur. That is a must-see film. So number 6, Shakespeare in Love, 1998. Now, some of you may be saying, you could have picked something better than that. Maybe, but here's why I chose Shakespeare in Love. Because it's a little cheesy, and but it does have the Shakespeare references. It's a little loose with history, uh, but it, it has um, it has an interesting feel to it, which I think is very Faire like. I think the whole feel of the actors and the scenario and everything, it feels a lot like a Ren Fair to me and how it's done for the stage work and everything. So I think it's a good route to look at Shakespeare like that, because that tends to be how Fair looks at it. They don't usually do a strict view of Shakespeare at Ren Fairs. Just saying. And I'm glad Dan's not here because he might yeah, with who plays Will Shakespeare. So yeah, I'm glad you didn't hear me say that, but it's true. Just gonna say it. And yeah, Drew is totally right. Igraine is played by the director's daughter, and there is a little, but the British have a different view of love scenes and all of that. It's not quite as weird, I think, uh, but for us, yeah, it's totally weird. Um, so yeah, Susan, okay, you're doing well. You're so okay. That's good. And Alicia says a movie loose with history, never. I know, I know. Yeah, but some, it's there's a variance. Some are more loose than others. Boy, talking about fair. Okay, anyway, that's a side note. Yes, yes, there is that. There is that. Okay, and number 5. Now this one is another important one, because at fair, a lot of fairs, you're always going to see at least one person dressed up like a barbarian. Let's just be honest, the barbarian swordsman. And what do we get for that? Conan the Barbarian, 1982, the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic. Now, whatever you think about Arnold Schwarzenegger, good or bad, whatever. I mean, this film, it was sort of at that point that fantasy and history and it just sort of morphed everything together. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons with with literature, and it really it's a weird combination of a lot of things. And it was a low budget film that did very well and became a cult classic, and really helped make Arnold Schwarzenegger's career, for good or bad. So yeah, but just because of that barbarian aspect and so many different influences, you're gonna wanna watch that. Honestly, it is important because that will, um, yeah, right. Commentary Conan. Yeah, now I do want to make something clear. When I say Conan the Barbarian, look at the date, 1982, not the remake, not the remake. That's an important distinction. You really need to know that. So yes, unless I tell you otherwise, no remakes. It's very rare. They're worth it. Very rare. Okay, now number 4. This one is, yeah, this one is like the movie that is, I think, most like Ren Fair. In fact, I saw it while I was at a fair, pretty much. I was at the Castle Muskogee Fair in Oklahoma back in 2001, and it came out in May of 2001. And when you're there on a Friday and you're waiting, you're thinking, oh, I need to do something to pass the time before fair day. You go and watch a movie, and I did, and saw this film, and it just watching it, it was kind of like this. Oh my God, this is fair. So many people at fair are going to be doing this in the future, especially at the joust. And some of you already know what I'm talking about. It is, of course, A Knight's Tale, 2001. I mean, sure, a few weeks after it came out, people at the joust were stomping their feet and clapping their hands and singing "We Will Rock You," and it went on for years after that. You still see that at fairs sometimes now. It is crazy. Um, yeah, yeah, just a bit, just a bit. And oh yes, I almost forgot. Lee says she demands that we acknowledge Red Sonja. I'm gonna back up for a second. Okay, we'll back up for a second. I am so sorry. You're right, Lee. We should with Conan. I think it's so difficult to find a good, strong female character when it comes to fantasy roles or history roles or what have you. And they actually made a serious attempt with Red Sonja, and I think it was a good attempt. I don't think it's a great film. I wish they'd gone a slightly different route with it. But it had promise, and for the time, it was actually pretty good. But yeah, I think that I definitely worth as an addendum. If you do see Conan, maybe take a look at Red Sonja too, because it's sort of it's sort of a offshoot of it. And yes, Susan is right. The Knight's Tale has so many great actors in it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them very early in their career, so that is very nice. Yeah, so definitely worth checking out. Definitely worth checking out. Now, number three. Number 3 is the oldest film on the list, by far, but I think it's an important one, and people forget how much of an influence this had on so many Ren fairs and so many movies after it, and just media after it. And that is 1938's The Adventure of Robin Hood. Now, yeah, Robin Hood, I mean, Errol Flynn, Olivia de Havilland, at pretty much the heights of their popularity or near it. Um, and Olivia de Havilland just died recently, a few months ago, I think. She was the oldest surviving actor from Gone with the Wind. I mean, she was from the heyday, and so is so upset, um, so upset with the fact that she died. That was end of an era. But no, I mean, 1938 and in color. I mean, not very common back then. So huge influence on Robin Hood, on clothes, on the story of Robin Hood that got reused in so many TV shows and movies afterwards, and Ren fairs, of course. And yes, Alicia is suggesting the court jester, and I thought of that, but it's a good film. It's a great film and wonderful, but I don't think it's a requirement. I think that would be on the second list. Like if I had the second 7, that would probably be on that list. But yeah, it's definitely a good one. Um, oh, okay. Ivanhoe is Drew's favorite version of Robin Hood. That's fair. Um, yeah, it's interesting. Of course, the movie Ivanhoe. I don't know. That one's a little. It yeah. It's definitely interesting. They yeah, Elizabeth Taylor alone, yeah, not quite the way I would have gone, but yeah, it's still it's interesting. But yeah, Court Jester, definitely a good one. I would recommend that. Now, number 2, we're getting into the important ones. Number 2, is a necessary one. And Alicia, when you see this one, you're going to say, would you rather have Court Jester or this one? And I dare you to say not this one. Number 2 is The Princess Bride, 1987. Right? Right? I mean, you have to watch that film before you go to a Ren Fair, because even though it's a fantasy film, it's not really historical at all. It's yeah, it's a comedy, but I mean, yeah, it is so good. I mean, that should be on a pedestal in museums for this is how you do a movie right, because it's hard to do any type of sci-fi or fantasy film better than The Princess Bride. I mean, really, the only movies that really go above that in overall appeal. I mean, it transcends the whole fantasy genre. People who don't normally like fantasy think The Princess Bride's a great film. It it's quite an impressive achievement for everyone, for everyone. So yes, and the quotes are already coming in. Well done, well done. So yes, before I say the first one, which I think is by far the most obvious, um, she's going to discuss that at length. Alicia says that Princess Bride is an updated Greek novel. You can almost say everything is an updated Greek novel. That's one of the benefits the Greeks had of predating almost everything. Um, so yeah, yeah, they were quite novel at that. So yeah, I said it. I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of honorable mentions, and I think actually the Court Jester is not a bad honorable mention to throw on there too, Alicia, just to throw that out and give you one. I mean, that's a good one. I'll throw the Court Jester on there as well, with Danny Kaye, one of my favorite actors, and definitely one to watch, and a very fun film by far. Another one I'm going to recommend is Willow from 1988. It's a great fantasy film, and it's just fun and well done. And it was one of the early films to try CGI in the film. I mean, one of the really first films to do it. And you know, honestly, it still holds up pretty well considering. So definitely worth watching. Definitely worth watching. And then the third one I'm going to recommend, and this one is totally off the wall. This is my opinion. So, yeah, this might, some of you may not have seen this, but I think this is a good film to watch before Fair. Is 1998's Dangerous Beauty. I know. I mean, it's not a mainstream film, but it had several things really going for it. It had a strong female lead who is the lead actor of the film, and really well done. And the costumes and the sets and location shooting and everything was really well done. And it was just, they didn't promote it well. I think the timing was bad, but I'm just throwing that in as a, if you'd like to see what the fun of Fair might look like, I think that's at least some of it. Kristen just jumped in and dramatically came into the, yes, hello, good people. Speaking of strong female leads, good job, Kristen. So yes, I do want to recommend Dangerous Beauty, partly because I think it's a very underrated film, and I think Ren Fairs in general benefit from taking a good look at it. Yeah, yeah, I understand that, Drew. Talking about The Sword and the Rose. Um, Wait, what? What? Alicia seems surprised that I watch non-mainstream films. You know, I mean, first of all, I watch almost everything except horror films because that's the only genre I don't like. And even then, I've seen a lot of those, but that's the only one I really shy away from. I've seen, I won't say everything, but a ridiculous number of films. I mean, some films that are so low budget. Wow, it's crazy. It's crazy. Crazy, I say. So yeah, yeah, that's true. My movie collection is categorized by decade. So yeah, I start with 1900 to 1909, 1910 to 1919, and I keep going by decade. I think, yeah, how many movies do I have now? I average somewhere around 100 to 150 per year. Of then they were made. So, but yeah, I mean, it's somewhere around 8,000, 9,000 movies now that I have. Maybe 10. It might be getting close to 10 now. But yeah, it's crazy. And certainly there are a lot of movies in there I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm never watching this again. But it's just I love movies. I always have, which is one of the reasons why the whole Shakespeare review things made sense. Because Dan took care of the Shakespeare part, although I certainly have some experience there too. But the movie part, oh yeah, I'm the guy. Love movies. So yes, now for number one. Number one movie that you have to watch. Um, and oh, Kristen is talking about the Knights of Pat Aston. That is actually a cute film. That is pretty good. I will say. Yeah, I mean that. I don't know if it's a necessary movie, but it's not bad for a list to put on. Yeah, I'll say. So number one, and I know some of you know what this is. You have to. Number one is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I mean, come on, challenge that. Tell me that that should not be number one. I want to hear this because there are the first time I went to Faire, I heard tons of references to Monty Python and the Holy Grail. When I first started performing at Faire, I heard tons of references to Monty Python and the Holy Grail. As the years have gone on, I mean, the number of times I've seen somebody dressed up as King Arthur and somebody clopping two coconuts together, following around while walking through the fair. I don't know if I can count the number of times off the top of my head. So yeah, yeah, it is. You kind of have to. Monty Python and the Holy Grail, right? Um, Now, wow, Jan has seen Conan, Princess Bride, and Willow. I wouldn't. I would have thought Adventures of Robin Hood for sure for you, Jan. That's interesting. Um, yeah, and maybe Shakespeare in Love too, because that was a pretty good film. So yes, yes. I'm sorry. I'm just, yeah, all the comments, and that's how pervasive the Monty Python and the Holy Grail is on all of our lives, in and out of Faire. Um, so right, and Drew makes a very good point. Uh, so many quotes of that movie. Um, so yeah, yeah, I do want to stress this. I mean, watch these films so you'll get the references when they come up at Faire. But no matter how much the desire hits you, avoid quoting these movies at Faire. I mean, if you do, it better be very, very appropriate. Because all the performers at Faire have heard these quotes so many times. It is almost redundant. In fact, once you get to be a performer at Faire, one of the first rules you learn is you're not quoting these films. You are not quoting these films because that's considered sacrilege. I mean, you might get away with it on your first day, but after that, oh yeah, you will be publicly embarrassed by the rest of the cast and performers. So you really have to avoid it. You really have to avoid it. Now Kristen is a good exception here because she will dress as one of the characters, and that changes things. If you are actually dressing as one of the characters, it's that almost gives you a pass where you almost should make some of the references just to help people get it and expand on the outfit. So I'm going to I'm going to give Kristen a pass there. Oh, and then she says, but she gets comments from creepy guys, and I'm like, nah, yeah, that's a good point. You do get that. The Castle Anthrax scene is a little, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I think you just need to reword it, Kristen, with the whole, no, I'm Zoot, and I just mean just Zoot. and play with it, something like that. Oh my God, I just quoted one of them, and that's wow. I just told you not to quote it, and I just did that. Okay, like I said, it better be really appropriate. Um, and Alicia says her alternate version of Bonnie is a comedic, nerdy burlesquer. Wow, interesting. Wow. Okay. Yeah. It gets pretty crazy. Um, but no, I mean, I think these are the core films that you really need to take a look at um, for Fair because you miss out on some references. I mean, yeah, you definitely do. So, anybody going to challenge me on the list? Anybody saying that I'm off? I mean, you might consider, oh, maybe you should have added this one to the list, but I do think this is a pretty good core one here. Um, yeah, I think all things considered, um, while I think if I expanded it to 10, there are certainly some others that might be good to put on, but I think this is a good core 7 list. And because I've been doing the 7 reasons so much, I felt I should stick with the number 7 just to kind of go with consistency. But I hope this helps. I think at least some of these films can be watched on Netflix and Amazon Prime and things like that for streaming services. They are very popular films, so hopefully they're easily accessible. So, anyway, I hope that was a good starting place for you. So, yes, 7 movies to check out. Now, oh, and Kristen is saying, well, personally, I'm going to watch Disney's Robin Hood. You know, I love that film. It was always one of my favorite Disney films. And I thought, one of the big challenges for an animated film, in my opinion, is to summarize. Because for animated films, you can't do a 2-hour animated film easily and expect kids to set through it. So for Disney, when you're doing a kids film, you're more restricted than other production companies because you've got to you've got to condense that 2-hour film into like an hour 15 or an hour 25, and that's your film. And you've got the story that you need to really summarize. And they did such a good job with it. It is it their best film? No, it's not. I'm just going to say it. It's not Disney's best film. Notably, there are plenty of films that are more epic, more amazing. The music's better, but they did such a good job with that story, condensing it. I mean, it flowed well. It was a fun film, and I do love it. I do love it. Ah, yes, yes. So yeah, I really think that is so definitely Disney's Robin Hood might be a good addition to your list too. Haven't already seen it. In fact, if you haven't seen it, oh my gosh, yeah, you should see that. Yes. Well, I'm glad that y'all are doing well with comments because it has been tough getting commenting too much in Facebook saying, no, you're commenting too much, which I do not understand. I do not understand that at all. Facebook is, well, Facebook. Uh, mm, Counterintuitive is a nice way of putting it. but, but I'm really looking forward to Thursday's Shakespeare Reviews review with Dan. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely RSVP for that if you haven't already. And Friday is going to be the release of Scotland, PA, the Shakespeare reviews, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun too. It is, yeah, it's a good one. Now, we'll also on Thursday we'll also be talking a lot about what we have coming up for other movies we're going to be talking about. I mean, next, oh gosh, I think the next 4 or 5 or 6 we're going to be talking about. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of insider stuff on Thursday. So definitely come and check it out. Oh yes, and thank you for reminding me, Lee. She said the Gathering Affair will return next week with some great new acts, and this is true. Um, we are we are yeah, acts that have not been on here before, and I think a lot of you have never seen, or at least aren't. Yeah, I think some of you definitely have not seen these groups, and it's going to be great. You're going to really start liking this. We're really expanding who we're getting for Life's Affair for the Gathering, and that is wonderful. Is Yeah, it is so much fun. And it's interesting how that's worked. I mean, we've concentrated a lot on the regions we were very familiar with, and there are plenty of other regions. So I think we'll be able to keep this going for a good while. That's the plan. There are definitely plenty of groups that we have not been contacted yet on the list. So we're going through and see how long we can do this, because it is just the best part about gathering and Life's Affair. Honestly, is the finding all these great new groups, all these great performers that you never had a chance to see, and and that's a tough thing. I mean, unless you're Jan, because Jan is obviously the exception to this rule by far. Unless you're Jan, you don't get to travel to every single fair in the country. Oh my God, she travels so much to to the different fairs. But yes, you don't get to. It's tough to do that, and you miss out on a lot. Luckily, a lot of the performers travel around the country, so you get to sometimes check out a few that people in other regions do get to see. But there are plenty that you never hear of, and it's such a shame. So we're trying to take care of that, and a lot of cool little things that I think you're going to like too coming up. Where and Alicia is saying she doesn't know if we can top that awesome black lip storyteller chick. You're right, and that's and in fact, don't worry, we're gonna have to have that black lip storyteller chick back on here at some point, definitely, because that there's some definite rocking it going on. So, and don't worry, we do have some plans for that. We are expanding. Yes, because um, Life's a Fair. One thing we do, we expand. It's like that. We are every week we have meetings where it's just okay, what can we do? What's good? What's bad? What do we need to change? And what can we do more of? And okay, what can we do new? And we keep working on that. And every week I think it's getting better and better, and I love that. So all is well. So thanks again for being a part and part of all of this and joining us here and checking it out. Do do join us on Thursday and Friday, and go check out some of the movies that are going to be with Shakespeare Reviews. Check out Scotland, PA. On I think YouTube is the easiest place to find it. Honestly, as an indie film. Uh, oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't going to mention the new show that shall not be named publicly, because I knew that Lee would like yell at me if I did that, and Lee can be scary sometimes. So yeah, I didn't want to, but yeah, there is a new thing we're working on that I think that uh, yeah, Blacklist Bonnie's gonna be on, so that'll be really good. So ah, so again, thanks for joining us. Have a great week, and yeah, I'll get to see you on Thursday and Friday. Yay! So enjoy, and we'll yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff coming up. I think, oh my gosh, in a few weeks there's going to be some cool stuff coming up. Uh yeah, there's going to be some Halloween stuff coming up. Um oh my gosh, yeah, the plans for the next month. Uh yeah, I can't give specifics because, Lee scares me, but it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Um at the very least, it's going to make what we're doing now, like, it's going to feel like we've doubled it. Is I think what it's going to. I think that's fair. So I don't think we will have quite doubled it, but it'll feel like it, and that's just as good. Oh yeah, Lee's right. October is going to be awesome. Um, it is just, yeah, it's going to be fabulous. I can't even. Oh, my mind is blown. And the fact that we can pull this off. I mean, really, for the most part, it is still just the two of us doing all of this, because apparently we have no life. Um, but but no, we we are just managing to pull all this off. But we are looking at getting some help here to join us here pretty soon, because it is a lot of work, but it is so much fun that it is worth it. Very much so. All of you help make it worth it. So thank you. Thank you very much because it's so much fun doing that for you. And oh wow, and they're thanking Lee. So this is all. See, thank you. So that actually means a lot. It really does. Um, really, really does. So thanks again. Have a great week, and I guess I'll play us out a little bit because well, that's what I do. So take care, enjoy, and I'll see you soon.